Welcome back to Speak Up Queen, the podcast where we empower, uplift, and celebrate women who have reclaimed their voices to inspire others. Hi, I am Marika, and I'm so excited to have you here with me today for this very special episode. Why? Because today I'm joined by our very first guest, Tywanah Evette, the Black Butterfly Goddess. In today's episode, Tywanah will be sharing the powerful moments that shaped her healing journey, including the moment she decided to take charge of her life and begin healing. How finding her voice has transformed the way she lives today. A proud milestone what that brought her closer to the empowered woman she is now. How she has redefined her values and embraced a new self of sense. The importance of setting boundaries to protect her energy and peace. How learning to set boundaries has completely changed her life. I can't wait for you to hear her story and the incredible insight she has to share. So, without further ado, let's welcome Tywanah Evette, the Black Butterfly Goddess, to Speak Up Queen.
Thank you so much. That was such a beautiful introduction. Thank you. Thank you. I am Tywanah Evette, as she said, Black Butterfly Goddess. I am a fourth generation intuitive healer, psychic medium, spiritual guide, and dog mom, mother, proud grandmother, and published author. My story began somewhere around the time I was 3. My mother left my father, my natural father, for reasons I'm still unsure of, because even though I have communication with her in the spirit realm, that's one of those things that she says, mind your business. um, but she was with another gentleman. That's who I grew up to believe was my father, my daddy. And I was a daddy's girl while he was in my life. I could do no wrong. He never told me no. I'd go up proudly on his shoulders, and I felt like he was the biggest, strongest man in the world. My daddy had me. Unfortunately, when I was around 9, my real father came looking for me. And my mother suffered from depression at that time. She had left my daddy out of pride. And they had an argument. She had too much pride. She's a Leo. And she left my daddy, and we moved to Seattle. She started nursing school and did not want to place the burden on my older aunt and uncle of caring for me on them. And she sent me to my father. That's the day my life changed forever. I went from being a joyful, playful, talkative child who thought there were endless possibilities in the world and I could be Cinderella if I wanted to always just wanting to hide and stay quiet so he wouldn't find me. My natural father is a pedophile. He was a deacon in the church, and he hid underneath that title. But he had a savory taste for his children. I went to school with bruises all over my body from where I had tried to fight him off the night before, when he took my young girlhood from me. And my 5th grade teacher, Antoinette Antisovsky, PS 106, laughed at me along with my guidance counselor. Your dad's a good guy. He works for immigration. He's a part of the church. He would never do that. You probably just fell off your bike or something. You're an active kid. So that's the day I knew that no one would ever believe my story. So for the next 5 years, I endured his torture until I missed my monthly. And I went to the store and I bought a pregnancy test and it came out positive. It was my father's child. For 12 weeks, I carried hatred in my body because I began to hate myself, and I hated what was growing inside of me even more. I couldn't even call it a baby. It was a thing. Because what do you call it? Your son, your daughter, your brother, or your sister. Even my best friend who went with me to the center to terminate didn't find out until 2 years ago that wasn't my boyfriend's child. That was my father's. I held that secret in until 2 years ago. In 2020, I met this man, and I thought I had chosen better because everyone that I was with before that were terrible people. And here, I took a couple of years to heal myself, or thinking I was healing myself, I should say. And I went through one physically abusive marriage with a schizophrenic who held me at gunpoint for 3 hours on my knees while I begged for my children's life, not mine. He said he was going to leave me alive. Then I married another deacon who believed the lies of his daughter over the words of his adult wife and the other children in the home, and threw me and my children on the street. So I took a couple of years off from 2016 to 2020, and I decided I'm going to start dating again. And I meet this 4th grade teacher, and here I am thinking, oh my God, what could be better? Girl, you did it. You finally did it. Like, you really chose better. He's got this bright, angelic genius of a son who's polite and respectful, and the son and I bonded in such a beautiful way. Like, for even when he had seizures, he didn't want his mother, he didn't want his father, he didn't want his grandfather, he wanted Miss T. I was the only one who could console him because I too have epilepsy. So he felt understood. He felt like somebody saw him then. Miss T saw him. And so after 2 years of being screamed at, yelled at, told I didn't do anything right, demeaned, diminished, belittled, degraded, even after I degraded my own self by laying on a carpet face down and begging him to love me, he stepped over me like Manhattan street dog shit. I had left Atlanta to come be with my sister. My brother-in-law passed suddenly. Heart attack in the house right after they ate breakfast. And my sister is this very put together type A person. I've seen her cry once in our lifetime, and that was when my mother flatlined. Never seen her cry or in a bad space, ever, except that one time. She was a puddle of jello. I had never seen her so frail. Here's this strong woman that I looked up to my whole life, and she was frail. But I had to be the strong one because I came here for her. And so I didn't even get to mourn my brother-in-law because I have to be the strong one. I'm here for her. It's time for me to go back to Atlanta. Every alarm bell in my body, everything hurts. I feel sick. I feel nauseous. My head is hurting. And everything in me is screaming, go back to your house. Because I had a house, I had my own place. Even my best friend, as we're taxiing down the runway, said, why don't you just go home? I said, I don't want the argument. I can't take it right now. For those of you who don't believe in intuition, your body knows the answer to everything. Listen to it.
Yep.
I should have just gone home. And so he meets me at the airport. I get in the car. I was on the last flight, so it's almost midnight. And I act like I'm happy because his son's in the back seat. I'm like, you know what? When I worked in DC, I forgot how wonderfully educational it is for children who love STEM, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. I said, I never went to the sites because I worked for them. I wanted to get away from them. Why don't we take him on a trip? It would be nice. The car got cold. What in the world could I have said wrong? The whole way home, everything was silent after that. My heart is racing a million miles a minute. I'm like, I can't take this right now. What could I have said wrong? So we get home. I take a shower. And as I'm putting my bathrobe on, something says, and I, as a psychic, I now know that was my mother's voice. Put your phone in your robe pocket and hit record. And so I did it. That's the only time that I listened to my intuition. Because at this point, I kind of needed to know I wasn't crazy either. And so I sit next to him. I'm eating like a little bit of chicken breast and getting ready to go to bed. I had already taken my epilepsy medicine and my sleep medicine. And he says, I'm not going anywhere where you traipsed around with some other man. Traipsed? That was my first response. Like literally the way I just did it, traipsed. That would mean that I just go anywhere with anyone and do anything. That's what that implies. I have never traipsed in my life. And so I said, I just told you, even when I lived there, I worked for presidential appointees. I was on call 24/7. I wanted nothing to do with those buildings. I wanted to go home. Well, you're supposed to reassure me, and you're not reassuring me right now. And, now that makes me believe that you enjoyed another man more than me. And I'm just sitting there. Like, are we really doing this? I just got home. I can't even process what I just saw. I can't believe my brother-in-law, the healthiest person in the world, who never ate he didn't eat candy, he didn't eat chips, he didn't eat anything bad for him. He took the right supplements, and he just, at 55 years old, just dropped dead on the floor after a shower.
Wow.
My sister's left with this 6-month-old Cane Corso puppy who I am the only one can deal with. No one else in the family wants any parts of him. And I got to deal with this. And so he's yelling and screaming. And I just keep telling myself, your phone's in you're recording. So you'll be able to know whether you're crazy or not. You're recording. And so at one point, it was almost as if I was looking at my body. And I went numb. And I stood up and walked in the bed. I stood up completely emotionless. Walked in the bedroom and laid in the bed, but put the phone under my pillow, still on record. He comes in, he tries to continue the argument there. I won't engage. So finally, he goes to sleep in the living room. I fall asleep in the bedroom. The next morning, I got up, I got a hot cup of coffee, and I came back in the bedroom and I laid down because, again, I still have not processed what I saw. My sister was a pile of jello, the strongest woman I know. And my brother-in-law is gone. And he comes in the room and he starts the argument right where he left off. And I stood up. I walked over to the dresser with that hot cup of coffee. I had just filled my sleeping pills, so there was 29 in there. And I took every one of them, followed by coffee, walked in the kitchen, drank vinegar with it because I wanted them to melt.
Oh.
Went back in the bedroom, put on my favorite butterfly sweatshirt that my children had purchased from, we were all adults at the time, no one was little. And he goes, great, now I have to go get syrup of Ipecac. He leaves the house. I left the house. And I started getting sleepy before I got up the hill really good. And there was some woods right there. So I laid down in the woods between two trees. I typed, I'm sorry, in my phone. And I went to sleep. I remember what happened when I went to sleep. And for those who don't believe that there is an ancestral plane, there is. They meet you there when you cross over. My mommy and my daddy were there. And they told me I had to come back. I had a mission. I had a purpose. And I'm arguing and I'm like, no, I'm worthless. Nobody loves me. You know, I'm unlovable. I have to be Satan's child because no one loves me. And my mother, in her poised way, you have a purpose and your purpose begins now. And she pushes me back into my body. I wake up in the hospital. I don't know how I got there till this day. And I don't know what technique they used to save me till this day because it's not clear in the records. But I do know the two methods they didn't use. So, my first thought to myself is, damn, you couldn't even do that right. He's right about you. You're worthless. And of course, I have to go to the hospital, got to stay, whatever. But even in those days on the unit, he called every day to scream at me. And, you know, the nurses are watching you when you're on the phone, writing down what they see. The day comes for me to hear whether or not I'm getting out of the hospital. And they said, no, we've added 3 days because you've been too upset while you're here. It was his phone calls.
Sure.
So finally I get home. I'm just, my daughter takes over. She's the one who signed me out. I'm discharged to my house only. And when I get to my house, there's black trash bags, all the stuff that was at his house that had accumulated over 2 years. He put in black trash bags and dumped all over my townhouse. Down to the Band-Aids that I bought his son that had dinosaurs on them. So my daughter makes me this elaborate meal. She's a beautiful, beautiful soul, she is. And I go take a shower and I take some medicine. And I come downstairs and she goes, Mom, you know it's okay to cry, right? Even then I was trying to be strong in front of them. She had to tell me it was okay to cry. And so I get through that. And a friend of mine, the same friend that told me I should have gone home, she says, you know, I met this lady and she does what's called RTT hypnotherapy. Have you ever heard of it? And I said, no, but you know what? I'll do anything at this point to feel better. This stupid therapy they have me assigned to where I'm glued to a laptop for half the day, going in circles. How do we feel? What's going on? What did we do today? What's our goal? This doesn't work. And this medicine they have me on, I'm stopping it because I don't feel good. That one RTT hypnotherapy session did more for me than 20 years of therapy. It's where they go back to each version of you in your subconscious mind and take you back to even your soul contract and why you signed it. But in that session, my mother comes through again. And it's all recorded. On Zoom, it's all recorded. I'm hypnotized. I'm out of it. You can tell. And my mother says, yes, you know you're psychic. And I've known since you were 2 that you're psychic. But I didn't get to finish. She transitioned at 59. I'm transferring my gifts to you. You will finish. And you could see where I'm like, you know, because my shoulders are hot. And when I moved, you know, after I got up and moved around and I moved my robe, there were red marks on one on each shoulder. And I felt better after that than I did after 20 years of therapy. And so my sister calls me. She says, I think we need each other. Why don't you move back here? She needed me more than I needed her. And she was still a mess. She was still a puddle of jello. And that's when I realized I was a healer. Because I was filtering. My body was being used as a filter for her to get her life back. And even the dog. Now, I would see my brother-in-law, but I would turn around every time, look around, you know, la, 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 la. I don't see you. I don't hear what you're saying. No, this is not happening. I don't know nothing about it. A couple of days before I moved into my apartment, she had gone into the office and I'm sitting in the den playing with the dog and I'm looking up at the television and he said something and I turned around and I said, what? And then I was like, oh man, he said, I knew you could hear me and I knew you could see me. And I'm like, oh God. And he says, I need you to give your sister a message. And I'm like, the one who doesn't believe in anything spiritual, you want me to give her? Nope. Go up. I'll give you you need a sticky note. I'll give you whatever you need to write with, and you can put it with your colognes, put it wherever you want in the house. But a message to her? Oh no. And he said, you have to give her this message. And he tells me the message. I waited 9 months to give her that message because she already thought I was crazy. So when I moved into my apartment, my mother's voice got louder and louder. And even at my sister's house, she would wake me up and tell me to sit outside. So for 2 years, I sat outside all night. Now, at my sister's, there's an enclosure where you can sit outside and it has light and it's screened in. At my house, I tried to create an enclosure, you know, on my balcony of my apartment where it would, you know, no one can tell when I'm sitting out there. So I didn't look like the crazy lady who sat outside all night. And she had me scripting, which is, you know, writing from the subconscious. And in February, she says to me, it's time to use your voice. To do what? What are we doing with my voice? And no sooner she says that, I open Facebook and someone I know is calling out for people for the season 7, episode 1 show of her podcast. Now she has a whole network which has different shows and stuff. And my old coach nudges me, I think you should do this. And I'm like, Mom, I really wish you would stay out of people's houses, but I can't control where she goes and what. I'm always telling her, stay out of people's houses. She doesn't listen to me. So, I did it. First show was called Facing Loneliness. Because in that time I lost every friend and my children didn't want to be a part of my life anymore. And I had to face my biggest fear, which was living alone without my children and my grandchildren in my life. There were a lot of nights spent rocking back and forth, in the shower, crying. There were a lot of times I would have to take a pillow and scream into it until I had no voice. There were so many nights that I cried until my tear ducts dried up. But I did it. And so I announced to the world that I am a psychic medium. I went from being executive assistant for presidential appointees and other VPs of corporations and nonprofits to a psychic medium. And since that day, opportunities have been laid at my feet. I have to turn some down. I built my business, Black Butterfly Goddess. And it's where I offer my body as the bridge between the material and the spiritual realm. And I bring people comfort. I speak on every podcast that I possibly can fit into my schedule that aligns with who I am, so that no one ever feels the way I did when I walked up that hill and laid between those trees. I built a platform on TikTok. I'm usually live every night. I missed last night, so I'll wake up, when I look at my messages, there'll be 1,000 of them. But people think it's just for the readings when they first get there. I built that platform so people feel seen, heard, loved, and understood. And I intentionally go live at night because that's when it's worse for people. In the daytime, you can kind of stay busy.
Yep.
Nighttime, not so much. And I am so loved by that community. When I started releasing the trauma, the epilepsy, I had gone 7 years without a seizure.
Wow.
And when I started releasing the trauma from my body,
Yep.
the epilepsy returned. But I am so deeply loved by that community that the little puppy that you've heard squiggling and belling around the living room since we've been on here, she was $1,250. They raised that money for me. Then they had me put an Amazon wish list up on my Stan store, and they bought 90% of everything she needed.
Wow, that's good.
And I call them the TikTok aunties, because I'll open my door every couple of days and there'll be an Amazon bag out there that I did not order. Oh, she needed a raincoat. Oh, she needs boots because you live in DC now and her paws can't, keep wet. Oh, she needs a sweatshirt. She needs a coat. She needed her dresses. She needed those dresses. Why does she need dresses? Because she's too cute. She just needs dresses. And that's what they do. And finally, I have the love that I have yearned for my entire life. It's just in a different package, but it's authentic because love is not a feeling, it's an action.
Definitely.
And the people in my life now put action behind their words. So when they say, I love you, goddess, or I love you, T, or I love you, Ty, I know it's the truth because they show me.
Mm.
My children and I have reconciled. We are in the process of healing. I got to spend all of June 19th with my grandbabies, playing with them hide and seek, tag, Uno, go fish, everything we think of. I played with them all day and I lived in every second of that. Even my grandson, I had called him one night and he was sitting in he's like a little man. He's 11 now and he's this little man and he's sitting there eating his ice cream and he's talking to me on his iPad and he's like, Nana, you remember when we were at Auntie Stacy's and we were hiding in the shed and nobody could find us? And it's this big, wonderful memory for him. He's like, that was the funniest day of my life. Nobody could find me and you, and we were just laughing.
Mm. Mm.
And life is taking a turn. And it's not perfect. I still have things that, like where I live, but they had to bring me here to remind me of where I don't want to be.
Mm.
So there are 18 ancestors in my room at all times, in this room. They're not allowed in my room. I woke up one night with 12 of them around my bed, and I was like, you guys do realize I have epilepsy, right? You can't be in the room. But they're the ones who help me heal. And I don't use myself as the credit for the voices of the messages I give. It's their wisdom and guidance from the other side. I know nothing.
Wow.
And I even, a couple of weeks ago, this is the journal that my publisher sent out in our publisher's, like gift package. And my daughter had given me a bunch of sticky notes a couple of years ago. And they said, I love, and it would say something cute on it. And she folded them up and put them in a little box. And I took this sticky note on April 8th and I put it in this book in my journal. And it says, I love how proud I am of all you have done. On October 29th, as I sat live with the other 22 women that are in this book, my daughter texts me, I am so proud of you. And I'm sitting there trying not to bawl my eyes out because she's finally proud of the mom she has. And she said, Mom, you did it and you did it alone. All I ever wanted was for you to find who you truly are. And I'm sitting there like, doing like this and wiping my nose and making it seem like I have allergies or a cold. But it was her text message.
Mm.
And so now I guide people from their darkness to their light because I know each step it takes because I did it alone.
Wow. Wow, wow, wow. Sure. It is just amazing. It is so amazing to hear these things. Yeah, it's just amazing. For our audience, if they are having a lack of boundaries and struggling with grief or being alone at night, do you have any advice for them? What I can
You're never alone, number one. You have angels, spirit guides, and ancestors around you at all times. reach out and ask for their comfort. They cannot come forward unless you ask them to. They're there, but they cannot act and come forward until you ask them to, and they will. If you're struggling with boundaries, learn the word no. No, period. There's nothing behind it. It's a complete sentence. It's the shortest sentence in the English language. No. You do not owe anyone anything. You were born alone. You have your own purpose. You will transition alone.
Yep.
Not lonely, but alone.
Yeah.
At that time. There are books you can read. Those of us that are in this space now, we are teaching those classes on how to have boundaries, how to love yourself, how to get through grief,
Yes.
how, look, TikTok is full of us. But make sure that it's one of us that are real. Sit back and watch for a while. You'll know the real ones by their audience. Try different modalities of healing. Talk therapy isn't useful for everyone. Medication is not useful for everyone. And in fact, if you're gifted, medication does the opposite of what your gift would do. Your gift will bring you healing. Medication will keep you in a state of panic. So if you know you're gifted, seek out alternative healing modalities.
And
they're out there.
And that's something that I had to learn over the last 5 years was try everything. Just try
Yes.
everything. Don't
Yes.
don't let your ego in the way of, no, I don't think that will work. Try it. And if it doesn't work, then at least you can
work.
say, I did try and it didn't work.
Exactly.
Just
Exactly.
be open-minded that some things can really change. And it's not going to happen overnight. That is something that I had to learn. It's not something that's happening overnight. Healing is a journey. It's not a destination. It's not a quick fix. It's really, and something that really stand out for me when you were talking about was your body needed to heal. The trauma your body needed to release. Because that was something like, my mindset is correct. I'm happy and I'm positive.
Yes.
But then I was like, ooh, but I'm still getting these feelings. I'm still getting this. I'm still, my body is still remembering things. And I was like, I need to feel safe in my body. And that's the only way I'm going to heal is if my body is feeling safe. I can tell my body, oh, you're all good, you're safe. But if my body doesn't believe it's a waste of time. It is really a waste of time.
100%. 100%.
So yeah, is there anything else you would like to share with these wonderful listeners? I am like just amazed. And I'm so proud of you for telling your story.
Thank you.
This is what this platform is all about, is for women to have a safe space, sharing their story boldly, and feeling safe that I can do it, that I don't feel voiceless or that someone's going to laugh at them or tell them that no one will believe you, because that was something that they thought that the detective told me. And I was silenced, and I was like, never ever in my life again. I want a platform for these women. It's my mission in life to have a safe space for women to heal, grow, and thrive. And I'm so glad that you're number one. Woohoo!
Thank you. Thank you.
That we can start this podcast knowing that anything is possible. Anything is possible. Healing is possible, no matter how big or small your trauma is, because everyone experiences trauma a different way. But we respect each other's trauma and healing. We are here to celebrate, encourage, and be open-minded. Be open-minded to each woman's story. There is something in each one of us, our voices, that someone can benefit from.
100%.
So yeah, is there anything else you would like to share?
No, I just thank you for allowing me the safe space to tell my story. And thank you for excusing my little 12-week-old ball of fur who wants to be squeaky this morning with her crinkly toy that the TikTok aunties purchased for her. And I am truly grateful and humbled and honored that you chose me. So thank you.
Huge pleasure. Well, I am gonna love you. I'm gonna leave you, and we will talk again soon.